As a lover of history, abandoned locations have always fascinated me, especially those that are former military installations. They are usually found in remote areas and have a fascinating history behind them and why they are now abandoned. One of these locations I had wanted to visit was known as the Željava Air Base in what is now modern-day Croatia, formerly being a Yugoslavian military base. With my own family origins being in the former Yugoslavia, I have always been curious about the Yugoslav time period, in particular its military and its air force. My own grandfather was a pilot in the Yugoslav Air Force right after World War II, and eventually became a captain in the Yugoslav Airlines. I've also been curious about the conflicts of the 1990s that ultimately tore apart Yugoslavia and led to my parents leaving their collapsing country. The story of the Zeljava Air Base ties into all of these themes and in some ways symbolizes the tragedy of Yugoslavia. Codenamed Objekat 505, this airbase was one of a series of defensive bunkers and installations across Yugoslavia. It just so happened to be one of the largest underground bases of its kind in all of Europe. It was primarily designed as an underground airbase that housed upwards of 60 fighter jets, such as MiG-21s, and upwards of 1,000 personnel with up to a month's worth of supplies. The base was built to withstand an atomic bomb blast. With 4 entrances leading into the base, the combined length of the underground tunnels was 2.2 miles, or 3.5 kilometers. The mountain that the base was built inside of is called Pljesevica, and on top of one of its peaks was a Yugoslav military radar station that worked in conjunction with the Željava Air Base. The construction of Željava began in 1948 and was completed in 1968 at a cost of around $6 billion at the time. This base became one of the most important and secretive locations in all of Yugoslavia, serving as a first line of defense for the country. The Yugoslav People's Army, or Jugoslovenska Narodna Armija in Serbo-Croatian, JNA for short, was primarily a defensive military. During the Cold War, the JNA was the 4th largest military force in Europe. Yugoslavia emerged as a socialist federation of various South Slavic nations after this region in the Western Balkans was torn up during World War II. Led by an enigmatic strongman named Josip Tito Broz, Tito would rule the country until his passing in 1980. While backed by the Allies during World War II, and also simultaneously maintaining a relationship with the Soviet Union, in 1948 Tito split with Stalin, which led to tensions between the two communist countries, nearly coming to hostilities. Thus, Yugoslavia found itself in a very precarious position, essentially being between East and West. Tito played both sides of the fence and received substantial U.S. financial assistance, while also pursuing a path as one of the leaders of the non-aligned movement of independent nations that did not wish to be part of either the Western or Eastern blocs. Following the death of Tito in the 1980s, economic woes and ethnic tensions were becoming evident in Yugoslavia, and for a variety of factors, the country was ultimately doomed. In the 1990s, Yugoslavia fell apart amidst a series of brutal civil wars that pitted people that were once all considered Yugoslavs against one another. Orthodox Christian Serbs, Catholic Croats, Bosnian Muslims, and others fought each other for a variety of complex reasons. The Zeljava Air Base found itself in an interesting position during these conflicts, as it was wedged essentially right between the Croatian and Bosnian wars. There was intense fighting in the regions surrounding the airbase. On one side you had the breakaway Serbian Republic of Krajina, on another side territory controlled by the Bosnian Muslim government and their local allied Croatian defense forces, as well as a pocket of rival Bosnian Muslim-controlled territory called the Autonomous Province of Western Bosnia, which was loosely allied with the Serbs, and finally you had the Bosnian Serb Republic. This complicated web of warring factions, rivalries, and alliances was particularly messy even for Yugoslav war standards. Initially in 1991, during the start of the conflict, the Željava Air Base was still in use by the Yugoslav People's Army, but as the army began to withdraw, they destroyed much of the runways, turning over control of the area to the Serbian Krajina army, who ultimately ended up detonating 56 tons of explosives inside the base to prevent its use by rival forces. The explosion was so massive that it was felt in the nearby city of Bihać, and smoke was seen coming out of the tunnel for months afterwards. Today, the Zeljava Air Base finds itself mostly within the borders of the Republic of Croatia, with part of its runways crossing into Bosnia and Herzegovina. When you're driving towards the base itself from the Croatian side, remnants of the conflict are still very visible even now in 2024. As you drive the long roads through the now largely abandoned village of Zeljava, one of the first things you will see is one of the last planes actually found at the airbase. It is an old American Douglas C-47 transport plane. In recent years, the base has become quite well known for dark tourism, and the area has been cleaned up significantly for easier access. In pictures of the area from just a few years ago, the plane itself was completely covered in overgrown brush. Not far from the C-47 lies another road filled with old barracks and other buildings that were attached to the base. So this is some kind of a depot area, I don't know, but this is where you've got an overturned bus, probably troop transport from what I've heard. Plenty of bullet holes in it. So I just saw a dog walk into the old bunker house here. Got attacked by a stray dog when I was a kid in Serbia. Watched my friend's leg get half ripped off, but dog went in that way. So looks like used to be soldiers living in it, and now there's stray dogs living inside the old bunker. As you approach the base itself, the first thing you will see are the expansive runways. So I'm standing here on an old runway, Yugoslav military runway at the Željava Air Base here. Literally right behind me here is the border of Croatia and Bosnia and Herzegovina right over there. So you can see even the little flag and the little booth, that's the border. So this is the border between the European Union and the non-European Union, Bosnia. You've got all these cars driving by, everyone's having fun on the old runways. And this is the mountain where the base is actually found inside of. That's Plješivica Mountain. So that's where we're about to go in and explore. So you can see here, this is where the airplanes would be entering. Right in this groove, basically, is where they'd come in and out. And they go straight to the runway from there. Already feels very cold in here. Wow, look at this. This guy went all the way down there with his car. So I don't know what's in here, but there's a lot of old tires being kept here. Very wet. And you'll see how large this section is.
Vehicle.
So this is the blast doors. There's a car coming down there. It's how 60 aircraft fit in here, but this is what's left of the blast doors. So this was made to survive an atomic explosion. The blast door was put in. I guess it was partially blown up when it was put on, as you can tell by the destruction. And here it's half closed, partially closed. But look at the thickness of this. It's unbelievable. It's like a monster broke out of the here. So in here, this looks like the rooms where the door would have been staged in. You can see the track there where the door would have moved through. It's all the rusted stuff. So that's how the doors would have gone in. The inside of the airbase contained 4 separate entrances into the mountain, with various long tunnels and rooms throughout the space. While we would explore much of the interior, my main goal was to find this section in the back, which contained the operations, listening, and communications centers, as well as other vital functions of the base. Again, this was enough to fit 60 aircraft, 60 MiG fighter jet type aircraft, the Yugoslavian military. Unfortunately, just a lot of people in here. You can see people driving through the tunnels. You've got one side that goes here, another side down there. It looks like another, I'm not sure what this is, but it's like another blast door type thing. You can see it's all blown up, completely destroyed. Don't know actually what this would have been. Basically the story here with the base is that the Yugoslav army, they pulled out of the area, I believe, and this area became under the territory of what was called the Republic of Serbian Krajina, which was a breakaway Serb-dominated republic, and they took control of this base. And having to leave the area, that's when they actually mined it and blew up, and they used, I think it was like 50 tons of explosives to destroy the base here, and that's basically the way it's been since 1992. So over 30 years of this state not getting better anytime soon.
Just like a giant tunnel up. Goes like 30 feet up.
So this area around here was the Aeronautical Technical Workshop. Still old tubes and stuff on the ground. I believe the end is just up here. See all these old pieces of machinery everywhere. That is, I believe, the end right there. Amazing if there were still MiGs in here. Those are probably in Serbia. Taken off a long time ago. This is what's left of a door. Yeah, and there's the end. Some old barrels. Not a lot left. Just a bunch of trash. Most of the MiG fighter jets that once lined these tunnels were indeed taken back to Serbia, which was what was left of Yugoslavia at the time. However, during its time in operation, the airbase was home to the 117th Fighter Aviation Regiment of the Yugoslav Air Force from 1968 until 1992. As the breakup of Yugoslavia began and the wars in Croatia and Slovenia began in 1991, MiGs of the 117th at Zeljava would see some limited action in the conflict. There were a couple of defections from the base as well, with pilots who had sympathies with Croatia. One of them occurred in October of 1991, when pilot Rudolf Petashin took off from the Željava Air Base and flew to Austria. Another such incident happened in February of 1992, when pilot Daniel Borovic flew from Zeljava to Pula, Croatia. That MiG-21 would become the first aircraft of the Croatian Air Force and is now on display near Pula as seen in this photo. As the war in Bosnia officially began in early April of 1992, the situation around Zeljava would become increasingly untenable, and in late April, the JNA began to pull out of Bosnia entirely, while also handing over much of its arsenal to the Bosnian Serb Republic. After this, the 117th Regiment departed from Zeljava forever. Most of the aircraft went to an airport in western Serbia near the city of Užice. As the JNA left the area, they destroyed much of the runways, and as mentioned previously, this territory then fell into the hands of the Republic of Serbian Krajina, who ultimately completed the destruction of the interior of the base itself in May of 1992, marking the end of the Željava Air Base. So this here looks like some definite blast damage. So when they were destroying this base, they might have had some kind of explosive here. My guess, I mean, you can just see what looks like debris here as they were blowing it up. You can't really see that in other sections as well. The other side, look at that, looks clean compared to that. So we have some shelves here, just in the side of the tunnel. Luckily, the further back we went into the base, the less people there were. Most visitors seemed to be most interested in the immediate entrances and some of the first rooms at the start of the base, not venturing deeper into the mountain. Wow, so look at underneath all this dirt, there is the lines that would have been on the floors of the runways. You can kind of see it sticking out every once in a while. This is in Cyrillic. We got, so this might be Macedonian. Ivanovski Padne Aleksandar. Amazing, just all these old documents laying around. This looks to be the blast door knocked on its side. Pretty unbelievable, actually. See where it came out of right there. Jeez. This is supposed to survive a nuclear explosion? I don't know how they would have knocked this thing out. This is some kind of film or something. I don't know what that is. This place is just amazing with the amount of history that's still in here. Lost to time due to conflict. Well, what's so incredible about this base is how this was one of the largest bases in all of Europe. Or it was definitely the largest base in Yugoslavia. I think it was $6 billion to construct the base. So, I mean, that's a lot in today's money. This was built from 1948 to 1968 Took them 20 years to build this place. Absolutely amazing, just to think about it now. Completely desolate, just abandoned. I don't know. My parents' taxes helped build this place, basically. And my grandparents' taxes, rather, in Yugoslavia built this place. And now it looks like this. Here's a personal anecdote I found very interesting from a family friend who actually visited the Željava Air Base while it was in operation. In the 1980s, this family friend was a member of the JNA and happened to be an airplane mechanic who worked on MiG-21s of the Yugoslav Air Force. He specifically worked on the ejection mechanism found in the seat of the jets used to eject the pilots from the plane. The ejection seat is one of the most complicated parts of a jet fighter. In 1989, while working at an airbase elsewhere in Yugoslavia, he needed extra parts in order to fix a few of the ejection seats, and it was determined that the parts would be obtained from the Željava Air Base. He was then able to tag along on the journey to Zeljava in a Russian Antonov transport plane. They landed on the vast runway and then entered into the mountain. While he told me they did not venture too far inside the base, they were there in one of the first rooms as they awaited the parts. He was only present for a couple of hours on site, and at the time, he did not think much of it, as this was just part of the job and all in a day's work. Little did he know what fate would befall this airbase just 3 years later upon its destruction during the war.
The map is correct.
Alright, so right now, we're trying to find command center. There's a lot of other little side tunnels all throughout here. Wow. Floor is completely messed up in here. Yeah, this is definitely what they call the KELK, the Klek complex. Just all this film everywhere, chair maybe. Oh yeah, look at this. Got some papers on here. Little documents from the Yugoslav military. Ustanovljene ispravnosti kod redovnih pregleda izvršni radovi. These papers, man, they're everywhere. So I threw a mask on just to help with the asbestos, just in case. But yeah, we're getting into the command center area now. Pretty amazing. So there's like a spiral here, all these different command centers, 1, 2, 3, 4 down there. We're in the circle now, so we're gonna go down each one and see if there's any old equipment or anything left. There's one down there. There's one in here. Wow.
Is this original? Wow, big machine here.
Old folders, old papers, old documents. Old reels and cans. Wow, this is amazing. Got an old can on this. This one's in Serbian Cyrillic. This is wild. Here you've got Informator, JNA, Yugoslav People's Army. Wow, that is incredible. Up here we've got some books. And these are disgusting state. This is incredible stuff. This has just been here for decades. Military manuals, you can see old military guys in there. Informator, say a date? It's just covered in mold. It's disgusting.
1984.
Kalendar događaja. Look at this. You got like little Soviet-looking guys. You know, we're gonna leave this here for the next person to read and enjoy some communist history. Nadrezak. Mesni Nadrezak. Maybe that's not so old.
It says Yugoslavia.
Where?
The bottom left.
Oh, you're right. Look at that. Gavrilović, Industrija Petrinja, Yugoslavia. That's now Croatia, Petrinja. You can see the rolls on there. Pula. So you got Pula, that's where my mom's from. Skopje, that's the capital of what's now called North Macedonia. My guess is this is a newspaper maybe talking about different happenings. The communists were looking for someone that night. He was angažovano something about some kind of discipline and responsibility na više sastanka. Yeah, I can't really, it's too messed up, but the communists were searching for somebody. This one down here was the Listening and Communication Center. See this old shelf up here. Wow. And these little pieces for like a phone or some kind of listening device. This was the Listening and Communication Center. Wow. Well, this is the Operations Center. A lot of old machinery, tech in here. Ducts above the room. Here's paperwork, more paperwork. It's all empty though. I don't see it filled out. I wonder if people have already stolen the filled out paperwork. There's a chair back there. See that right there? Oh my God, look at that. Vrela krv. Warm blood. Wow. This is crazy. This is it's a Mary Louise Fisher novel that's translated into Serbo-Croatian at the time. I mean, it goes, but it's pretty destroyed and deteriorated in there, so there's not a lot going on down there that I can really see. Yeah, so here you got some Chini kolutići. They're like these little Takovo. Yeah, that's a company. They're still around today. Usually, like you eat them with the tea. It's like little cookie biscuits. You've got your juice. I mean, this is all. It says Yugoslavia on it. Just crazy. All amongst the debris. Okay, we just found one of the coolest items. We found. This is the Radna verzija Ustava Savezne Republike Yugoslavia. This is the Constitution, the working Constitution. So, but this is what's crazy. Is it says, "Susret novoj državi zajednica Srbije i Crne Gore." This is after Yugoslavia started falling apart, when it just became Serbia and Montenegro in a union. So this is the working Constitution that would have been during the 1990s during the wars. I don't know if there's going to be a date. 1992, yeah. This is right before this base was destroyed. Wow, that is amazing. Numbers on the back. That is a find. I mean, this is... we now find ourselves in Croatia. So this is just a different time. Alright, we've got two more sections here. This section is the parachute and aerial equipment section. Pretty self-explanatory. I don't know what all this stuff is, but maybe it has to do with that. Basically nothing much in here. I'm assuming everything of value was probably taken out of here a long time ago. Over 30 years ago when the base was basically destroyed. This is the last section here. I think it's just connected to parachute section. It wasn't actually labeled on the map, but Same sort of thing. There's nothing really in here. It's just foggy and gross, and there's just old rusted out equipment. The command center is definitely the coolest to check out. So this appears to be the kitchen and the canteen. This is the pipes going above. I don't know, maybe is this like an oven or something? So this is where they would have been eating and hanging out in their free time. Maybe the pilots, people running the base. Just so much stuff that was just all left. Old chairs, more documents. Somebody left their shoes here in the kitchen in the mess hall, I don't know. Pretty incredible being out here, especially for me personally. Just always been very fascinated in the history of Yugoslavia, my parents' home country, and obviously how it so tragically came to an end. And this place encapsulates that. It was just a, you know, all these taxes were taken from basically my grandparents and all the other generations, put into this huge facility during the height of the Cold War, one of the largest places in Europe, this base, and it was just a big waste of money. I mean, did anything come out of it? It was basically used a little bit during the breakup of Yugoslavia, during the conflicts, and destroyed, and it lays here in ruin now 30 years later, and nothing happened. So it's a shame, just such a colossal effort, human effort for nothing, basically. So yeah, that's it's the story of the Željava Air Base, I guess. Just like Yugoslavia, it's no longer relevant, and it's been completely destroyed. There's the end of the Plek complex here, command center, all the important stuff in there. Back into the MiG runway, that is, I believe, runway 4 or entrance 4, and then we're going back down that way. So this is the compressor chamber. Wow, look at that. Yeah, you can see the duct. Look at the size of that thing. Holy crap. Yeah, that's it. So this section of the tunnel here, that basically comes out to the border with Bosnia. And then that section is obviously in the Croatian side, as we are for most of this. So one thing I like here, as opposed to a lot of the abandoned places I've been in the US, it's a lot less graffiti. There's some. Here, for example, there's some graffiti in Serbian Cyrillic. Nagrada za strah, reward for fear. You've got JNA, Yugoslav People's Army, Samir H, Bosnian Muslim, Croatian, Serb graffiti, Brčko. This is a city in the northern part of Bosnia, far from here. Over here is graffiti of, I believe that's Hajduk Split and Dinamo Split, or Dinamo Zagreb. Hajduk and Dinamo, two major Croatian soccer clubs. Someone's attempted to draw Serbian cross, 1, 2, 3, 4 C's on there, to be S's in Cyrillic. So there's a lot of different graffiti from different nationalities competing in here. But there's not nearly as much graffiti as I would expect in the US, which is kind of nice. We're gonna give the entrance of the base a Slav squatch. Let's see. Look at this guy's Slav squatch. How's that? The last thing I wanted to see from the outside was the entrance to tunnel number 4 over by the Bosnian border area. This barrier here is basically the border between Croatia, which I'm standing in, and that's Bosnia right there. And it cuts parallel to the side of the entrance of the 4th part of the base, or the 4th bunker of the base, which is in there. So the border goes parallel. So this is basically in here. is Bosnia and in Croatia right now. Can feel the cold air already. In years previously, the immediate areas around the base were still covered with landmines left over from the war, as was much of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Recent efforts funded by the European Union have resulted in mine clearing around Zeljava, as marked by this sign, but it probably still isn't a good idea to go wandering around in the woods near the base. That just about concludes my journey to this piece of Cold War history. It appears that in years previously, the airbase was more of an off-the-beaten-path place to visit for intrepid travelers that was a little bit on the dangerous side. It had more of a wild quality to it. Not only that, but visitation to the area often resulted in visits by local police, as given how close to the border this base is, it has been used by migrants trying to get into the European Union for a number of years. So the last couple of years, this location has become well known online for not only urban explorers but tourists alike, and as a result, many of the foreign tourists visiting Croatia have made the journey here. With signs now marking the base and somewhat of a cleanup taking place, it makes me wonder if the popularity of Željava will only grow in the years to come. This, of course, has a whole host of problems of its own, but only time will tell. I've seen a lot of videos about the airbase on YouTube that just focus on its abandoned quality, so hopefully you've enjoyed this journey to Zeljava, and that it was a little different and provided you with some background as to what happened to this incredible feat of engineering. For myself, it was a journey into the past and served as a time capsule of sorts. While the base was destroyed a few months before I was born, it was fascinating to be able to see the remnants of that time period and ultimately those conflicts that altered my life and that of my family's, as it did for millions of other people from the former Yugoslavia.